Greetings and salutations. Welcome, viewers, listeners, and worldwide audience. You may bask in the magnificence of me, UFO Lucifer. Now, you may ask yourself, what the hell is a UFO Lucifer? And for those who don't know, I will explain. Welcome to the circus, friends. Welcome to the circus. You see, one of YouTube's biggest advocates for so-called alien disclosure is someone who calls himself UFO Jesus, offending Christians worldwide by putting UFO and Jesus together, but it doesn't matter. Yes. And you too can buy a UFO Jesus t-shirt and support him repeating fake facts on the internet, telling people that disclosure is coming any day now. So what is a UFO Lucifer? Well, it's the antidote, of course, for a UFO Jesus. After you've gone over there and heard him repeat all the talking points and lies of people who make their full-time living selling fake alien stories, you can come here and hear the actual truth. UFO Jesus does zero fact-checking. He does zero research. He just repeats things that he wants to believe. Doesn't make them true, UFO Jesus. You're lying through your UFO Jesus teeth to the public, and we're going to stop that. So, one of the videos which caught UFO Lucifer's eyes was a video about Bob Lazar, yes. And the video is titled, Bob Lazar is Telling the Truth About UFOs. This would lead most rational people to believe that UFO Jesus believes that Bob Lazar is telling the truth about UFOs. It's in his video title. But no, UFO Jesus, just a few moments ago on Twitter, was weaseling out of this. He knows that I have facts in hand before putting mouth in gear. He knows I have evidence, and he has fake stories and talking points that he heard from the people originally selling the story. I have facts. I have evidence. UFO Lucifer Jesus. And this, he knows. He knows I have facts and evidence that will make him look extremely stupid for posting this video titled, Bob Lazar is Telling the Truth About UFOs. He knows I have this evidence. So it's no surprise to UFO Lucifer that just a few moments before broadcast, UFO Jesus is on Twitter trying to squirm out of things, claiming, oh no, this was a parody. He was pretending to be Bob Lazar's lawyer. And lawyers don't necessarily believe their clients are telling the truth, of course, yes. What a cop-out. What a cop-out. You titled the video, UFO Jesus. You titled your own video, Bob Lazar is Telling the Truth About UFOs. Now, he says on Twitter, I never said I believe Bob Lazar is telling the truth. I'm a Bob Lazar agnostic. What a cop-out. What a cop-out, UFO Lucifer. I thought UFO Jesus. I'm getting confused. Too many UFO personalities, right? Yes. So I thought more of UFO Jesus. I thought that he would have the balls, right? The balls to come on my show after I've presented my evidence and apologize to the public for spreading fake facts and false information in a video titled Bob Lazar is Telling the Truth About UFOs. But he won't. No, UFO Jesus is crying somewhere right now, waiting for the shoe to drop and for people to learn the truth. A video titled Bob Lazar is Telling the Truth About UFOs when you've done zero research and are only repeating talking points of the very people who have made money for some 30, 35 years, selling the fake Bob Lazar story is irresponsible and stupid. So tonight we are going to dispel these myths. We are going to destroy these illusions, for illusions cannot last, my friends. So let's cite fair use. We will cite fair use, and we will be sharing some of UFO Jesus video about Bob Lazar telling the truth. Bob Lazar telling the truth. Did you know he was a pimp, UFO Jesus? Did you know he's a convicted pimp? He ran a whorehouse, UFO Jesus. Why would someone associating themselves with Jesus be helping someone who ran a whorehouse sell fake stories about aliens? I don't know. Maybe he's not quite Jesus-like, right? All right, we will share the fair use banner because we will be sharing some of UFO Jesus video as we discuss it and critique it and show you the other side of the story, of course. Yes. So we're critiquing the video we are sharing. This is covered under fair use and allowable by law. We are using the video as an educational tool to teach people that you should not trust someone calling themselves UFO Jesus to tell you the truth. I can't believe someone with Jesus in their name lies so much. It's kind of funny. Yes, it is. UFO Jesus lying through his Jesus teeth. Oh, goodness. It is priceless. Yes, and Brock Lander says, pimping ain't easy. Bob Lazar is a pimp. He was a pimp. He ran a whorehouse. Show me any other senior staff level physicist on planet Earth that woke up one day and said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to run a whorehouse. Bob Lazar is a pimp, UFO Jesus. Let me tell you something. Maybe I've spent some time on the mean streets of Philadelphia. Right? Maybe I've known some pimps. Let me tell you something. You cannot trust a pimp to tell you the truth. I shouldn't have to tell you this, UFO Jesus. You're foolish to trust a convicted pimp. Okay? Foolish. Foolishness. All right. We will be sharing a UFO Jesus video titled Bob Lazar is Telling the Truth About UFOs. Yes. And then I will have some of my evidence to share that everything he says in this video is garbage. His proof is garbage. He has garbage proof. Yes, we have good proof. Bob Lazar is lying. He has garbage proof. Bob Lazar is telling the truth. Let's get into it. Let's get into it, friends. Yes. All right, fair use, fair use. Oh, I love his outfit in this video too. He's got a really, he's got a good Jesus outfit there. I bet you that was like $40 on eBay. He spares no expense. And look at this green screen courtroom. Yes. Oh, let's do that one more time, friends. Make sure I share the audio. Yes. Share audio. Bob Lazar is telling the truth about UFOs. I beg to differ, UFO Jesus. And tonight, I will educate you, UFO Jesus. I have got more for you, much, much more for you. I have been previewing some of your other videos, which are just as filled with fake facts as this one. So I've got more for you after tonight, UFO Jesus. Lots and lots of more for you. All for you, UFO Jesus. It just became a lot harder for you to spread fake and false information. Let's get into it, friends.
Continue making an amazing case for my client, Bob Lazar, that he was indeed working at S4, a subbase of Area 51, back engineering the alien propulsion system of a flying saucer. The following is a quick breakdown of the 4 major points I made in the previous video that strongly supported that Bob Lazar is telling the truth and always has been telling the truth regarding his working at S4, back engineering the propulsion system of an alien spacecraft.
Okay, you have 4 talking points, all of which were taken from Jeremy Corbell, who sold the Bob Lazar documentary, which was really a pro Bob Lazar fluff piece. Corbell famously said to someone, "There's no movie if Bob Lazar is lying." Do you know, UFO Jesus, when he said that? He said that when good and credible researchers were sending Corbell all of the ample and supportive evidence that Bob Lazar was a fraud and a liar. Alien scientists sent him a treasure trove of information which would indicate Bob Lazar was a fraud and a liar. Solar Marshall, who is perhaps known in UFO conspiracy land as the world's biggest expert on the Bob Lazar case, sent Jeremy Corbell all of the proof, mountains of proof that Bob Lazar is a liar and a fraud. Many other researchers, Stephen Cambion, sent Jeremy Corbell this information. Guess how much made it into his so-called documentary? None of it, UFO Jesus, none of it. And now you are repeating George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell's talking points, the 2 people who have profited the most from the Bob Lazar story. Congratulations, you've done an excellent job being a parrot. We should call you UFO Parrot. You just repeat shit. You don't check any of this. You don't even know if what you're saying is true, but you're telling people it is. It's not, and we will prove it tonight.
Number 1, Bob Lazar knew about a subbase of Area 51 called S4. At the time, S4 was not talked about in any capacity within the public domain, nor could you find it in any newspapers or any textbooks or any magazines or anything like that. It's also my understanding that S4 wasn't talked about within the private realm either. Number 2.
I'm sorry. Number 1, you are false. This is factually inaccurate information and stupid. First point, Area S4 was on government maps. Did you know that? Did you bother to check? Yes, Area S4 was on government maps, but it wasn't a top secret base to work on aliens. It was a radar installation. A radar installation, and it is on government maps. It is known about in the military. And Bob Lazar may have worked at S4, the radar base, on radiation health monitoring equipment. We have clips of John Lear which prove that. S4 was known about, but he took a real base, which was a radar installation, and decided that it was somewhere else on the map and that he went there to work on alien flying saucers. Another thing worthy of note, there have been recent flyovers of the area that he pointed out was Area 51 S4. Guess what's there, UFO Jesus? Nothing. Nothing is there. There is also ample and supportive evidence that Bob Lazar's first father-in-law from his first wife actually worked at S4. So your argument that he could not have known about S4 is completely and totally invalid and factually inaccurate. Let's see what his second great point is.
On 3 separate occasions, Bob Lazar took a unique group of people within visual proximity of S4. He took them at a precise time, at a precise place, and every time he did so, they witnessed spectacular showcases of something flying around in the sky that gave them the impression it was not a conventional aircraft. Now, if he had no connection with what was going on within the Area 51 complex, how would he have known the details of when and where flight tests were being undertaken?
Oh, this one is another one. This one is you playing fast and loose with facts. Because years later, despite what I think of him, he's a criminal now, but Sean David Morton and other researchers proved that the Janet flights flying into Area 51, if seen from a certain distance, could be conceived or believed to be UFOs of some sort. There are airplanes flying in and out of Area 51 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you also did no homework here, did you? Do you know where Bob Lazar, John Lee, or Gene Huff were when they were reviewing these so-called flight tests? Do you even know? Do you even care? They were 30 miles away from Area 51 proper, which would put them at about 90, or maybe, I'm sorry, which would put them at least 60 or 70 miles away from the area that Bob Lazar described as Area S4. What details about an aircraft in the sky can you discern from 60 or 70 miles away, UFO Jesus? The video, John Lear's home video of this, only shows some light in the sky off in the distance. That is not proof of anything. Anyone who spent some time out there could see lights in the sky every night coming in and out of Area 51. Most likely, those are Janet Airline flights, the airline which takes employees back and forth from Area 51 from Las Vegas. It is entirely conceivable or possible that that's what they were seeing, airplane lights. You can tell nothing from the video. There is no indication in the video that it is anything extraordinary. So you relied on talking points of George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell. These are the exact talking points of the people that are out there selling this story. And you just repeated them, not knowing any of the details, not researching any details, not fact-checking anything about that so-called story. No, I'm afraid your points are quite invalid. Is it possible that Bob Lazar knew about test flights? Sure. But it is just as possible that he had spent some time out there and saw airplane lights in the skies at night, and knew that from a distance, he may be able to fool people. Let's see what his next great point is.
Number 3, as part of the vetting process of investigative journalist George Knapp, he had Bob Lazar smack dab in the midst of confirmed Area 51 employees, and they all grilled him, asking him basic questions about the Area 51 premises, such as, what is the first thing you see when you get off the plane? What is the thing over there? What is that color? What is X? What is Y? What is Z? He was able to respond correctly to all these questions. At the end of his grilling, every single confirmed employee that worked out at Area 51 believed that Bob Lazar frequented the premises of Area 51. Number 4.
Oh, this is a great story. What a fantastic story you have, but it's just a story. Show us the names of these people. Show us their employment records, proving they actually worked at Area 51. This is another George Knapp talking point. Talking points which George Knapp has never provided the proof of and never will, sadly. It's a great story. And do you know, you are so unfamiliar with this case. Do you know when George Knapp started saying these things? It was right after a researcher, Stanton Friedman, started blowing holes all through the Bob Lazar case. Oh no. People are finding out that Bob Lazar's education is completely made up horse shit and fake. We're going to have to come up with something to bolster the story and keep it going. Suddenly, George Knapp is talking to all of these people that work at Area 51 and saying that they're confirming Bob Lazar's story. But to this day, UFO Jesus, 35 years later, he has yet to release the name of any of those people. For all we know, they're George Knapp and Bob Lazar's imaginary friends that work at Area 51. There is no supportive evidence or proof of this story. Simply the word of a man who's been selling this story for 35 years. Oh, I'm sorry. You don't know very much about this case, do you? You're just repeating George Knapp's talking points and Jeremy Corbell's talking points. And that could be very dangerous if you're telling people you're telling them the truth. Maybe you will learn tonight that you should do some fact checking. You should have facts in hand, UFO Jesus, before putting your mouth in gear like this. You look foolish tonight. You look foolish, and you're going to look more foolish as we go on our journey tonight.
Again, as part of George Knapp's vetting process, he had Bob Lazar take 4 separate polygraph tests, asking him questions about his working out at S4, back engineering the propulsion system of an alien spacecraft, and he aced each and every one of those polygraph tests.
Oh, did you hear this? This is another talking point, but this one doesn't come from George Knapp. This one comes from Jeremy Corbell. You see, about the time that Jeremy Corbell's film documentary was going to drop about Bob Lazar, Jeremy Corbell started pushing this fake narrative that Bob Lazar passed 4 lie detector tests. Oh, but did you do any investigation into this, UFO Jesus, or did you just repeat this horse shit? Because Bob Lazar passing 4 lie detector tests is horse shit, and we're going to prove it. First of all, this, like George Knapp's other imaginary Area 51 people confirming Bob's story that no one else is allowed to speak to or talk to or interview, this story came out right when Bob Lazar's story was falling apart. George Knapp needed some way to keep the story going. So what did he do? Well, he began getting Bob Lazar to take lie detector tests. And you see, the entire way that the lie detector tests were conducted was unethical. How do I know that? Well, I know that because of the excellent research of Stephen Cambion, who called the National Polygraph Examiners Association and told them about this story and showed them the evidence about the way in which the polygraph tests were administered. The National Polygraph Examiners Association said, first of all, Terry Tabernetti, being close friends with George Knapp, should never have taken part in any polygraph examinations with Bob Lazar. It would be a conflict of interest. No, Terry Tabernetti should have referred him to a polygraph examiner that he did not know. But he didn't do that. Next, the National Polygraph Examiners Association told Stephen Cambion that you don't just keep administering polygraphs until someone passes. If they fail a polygraph exam once, that's it. You get one bite at the apple. You don't just keep on giving them lie detector tests until you get the results you want, UFO Jesus. That's not how polygraphs work. Not in law enforcement, not in the corporate world. Nowhere on earth do polygraphs work the way that this situation worked, except in George Knapp's world, where he needed to prove that Bob Lazar was telling the truth to keep selling the story for 10 or 15 or God knows how many more years is he going to sell this story. No, I'm afraid that the lie detector tests is false information. Well, at least it is extremely factually flawed to say that he passed 4 lie detector tests. First of all, Terry Tabernetti, George Knapp's friend, can't even get his story straight. In one interview, he says that if Bob Lazar was lying, he ought to be in Hollywood. He showed absolutely no indication of deception. In another interview, Terry Tabernetti admits that Bob Lazar failed the first polygraph test. And it was going exactly how he thought it would. He failed the test. He was giving answers that were indicating deception. Does that sound like acing a lie detector to you, UFO Jesus? You just said it. Bob Lazar aced all 4 lie detectors. Wrong. Wrong. He failed some. He passed some. Others were inconclusive. He did not pass 4 lie detector tests. You got it all wrong. And this is what we'll do. We'll share the proof of that. First of all, here's proof that Terry Tabernetti, who administered most of the lie detector tests, can't even get his story straight. First, he says Bob Lazar should be in Hollywood if he's lying because there was no indication of deception. That was in one interview. And in a separate interview, Terry Tavernetti says he failed the first test. He was lying. UFO Jesus. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. George Knapp, Jeremy Corbell. And this is Stephen Campion's video, which we will share. It's called Why George Knapp, Jeremy Corbell, and Bob Lazar's Claims of Passing a Lie Detector Are Total Bullshit. Yes. Let's share that. And you'll get to see Terry Tavernetti is first in one interview, he says he lied. In another interview, he says, oh, he told the truth the whole way through. He can't even get the story straight. That, my friends, is an indication of deception on the part of George Knapp and this Terry Tavernetti. Yes, let's share this. This is an excellent short video. Look, he didn't pass 4 lie detector tests. You said he aced all 4 of them. Let's see how well. Let's see what Terry Tavernetti says in these interviews.
Now, before you toss Lazar on the pile with all the other UFO wackos, understand that he willingly agreed to take a lie detector test, requested and independently arranged by a Las Vegas reporter. Terry Tavernetti is the ex-cop who administered the test.
If he's lying, he ought to be in Hollywood, because he gave absolutely no physiological indications of attempting deception.
We started the first test, and it went exactly the way I thought it might. He was not doing well. He was reacting to the relevant questions more than he was to the control type of questions, which is indicative of a person who is deceptive, because it's showing an emotion that he does not feel comfortable with his answers. These questions bother him.
He gave absolutely no physiological
Which is it, Terry?
Of attempting deception.
He was not doing well. He was reacting to the relevant questions more than he was to the control type of questions.
No physiological indications of attempting deception.
Deceptive, because it's showing an emotion that he does not feel comfortable with his answers. Deceptive. Deceptive.
Attempting deception.
Deceptive. Indicative of a person who is deceptive. He was not doing well. Deceptive. He was not doing well. Deceptive.
Yes. So, but that's not the only proof that UFO Jesus is completely and totally factually wrong here. Even George Knapp disputes UFO Lucifer saying that Bob Lazar aced 4 lie detector tests. The only person who ever claimed that Bob Lazar passed 4 lie detector tests is Jeremy Corbell. And UFO Jesus is stupidly repeating words from a master manipulator and deceiver. There, I said it. Okay. We have another video to share. This one will shed more light on the fake lie detector claims of UFO Jesus. No, UFO Jesus, he did not ace 4 lie detectors, unless you count failing them. Unless you count failing them as acing. I don't know why you would say this, except that you did 0 research, 0 fact checking. You just ran with what sounded good that you liked. Right? Wow. We will once again cite fair use. We're using this video to educate the public and to inform the public, and we will be discussing and critiquing the contents of the video that we are sharing. This is allowable by law, and this is covered under fair use. So fair use, friends. Here we have George Knapp now will tell us all about Bob Lazar. And again, this is where in the beginning of this video is where he said Bob Lazar, Terry Tavernetti says Bob Lazar failed the first test, and then we gave him more tests. And again, the National Polygraph Examiners Association said that this is completely and totally unethical. You do not give someone a lie detector, and then when you don't get the results you want, just keep giving them more tests until you get the results you want. That's not how polygraphs work. not in law enforcement, not in the corporate world, not anywhere but George Knapp and Bob Lazar's imaginary world, and I suppose Corbell's imaginary world. So we'll see exactly what was done. First of all, before Terry Tabernetti got involved, that great friend of George Knapp's came along to help him sell the story of Bob passing lie detectors. There was another polygraph examiner first, and Bob Lazar failed the test with him, and the other was inconclusive. Near as I can recall, we will hear the details here. Well, let me share this one more time. Make sure we share audio. Very important. Yes. Bob Lazar's lie detector test about working on UFOs in Area 51. And this is from Finding UFO. All right.
Credibility.
What we used to do is we used to.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. No, I have it queued to the wrong thing. Sorry, this is the wrong video. Well, it's the right video, but the wrong time. Let's try this again, friends. Oh, I found it. Yes, yes. Yes, friends, I apologize. All right, we found it and we will be sharing it now. And again, fair use. We are educating the public by sharing this video. All right. Here is George Knapp telling the story of the series of lie detectors. First of all, UFO Jesus, you don't get to take a series of lie detector tests. You get to take one. If you fail the first one, that's it. He failed the first one, and they just kept giving him more tests until they got the results they wanted in order to continue selling his fake stories.
That fear factor would surface later. Lazar agreed to undergo a polygraph exam as part of this report. Polygrapher Ron Slay asked about the technology Lazar had seen.
Did you knowingly lie when you said you had actually seen anti-gravity propulsion in operation?
No. The results of this exam were inconclusive. Lazar appeared to be truthful on one test, deceitful on a second.
Oh, yes. But this polygraph examiner clarified that no, he failed the first one. George Knapp insisted to give him another one. You don't do that. If you failed a polygraph, you failed. You don't just keep giving polygraph tests. But George Knapp wasn't satisfied with the first polygraph examiner's results. So what does he do? He goes to his good friend Terry Tabernetti and has Bob Lazar administered some 4 more lie detector tests. That's 6 lie detector tests at least that this man was administered to. You don't get to get 6 lie detector tests, UFO Jesus. You get one. You get one. And when you fail the first one, you're finished. You don't just keep on giving more polygraphs until he passes some.
Slay recommended that a second examiner be brought in. Polygrapher Terry Tabernetti runs a corporate security operation and is a former Los Angeles police officer. He put Lazar through 4 tests and concluded there was no attempt to deceive.
And I left there thinking that I feel we do have some credibility to what the subject had to say.
In this interview, he claims there was no attempt to deceive from the 4 polygraph tests that he gave Bob Lazar. But in separate interviews, he claimed Bob Lazar failed the first one that he gave him, and he gave him 3 more. Wow, that's a lot of failed lie detector tests. And UFO Jesus said that Bob Lazar aced all 4 lie detector tests. Well, there were 6 at least, UFO Jesus, and he failed some, didn't fail others. Others were inconclusive.
And that's when I went to some of my colleagues.
Tabernetti sent the test results to a 3rd polygrapher who agreed the results appeared truthful. The charts were then sent to a 4th examiner who did not agree, suggesting Lazar might be relating information he'd learned from someone else. The polygraphers conferred and decided they would not issue a final statement on truthfulness until more specific testing can be conducted, and that's where it stands. Tabernetti believes that difficulty in determining Lazar's truthfulness stems from the fear that was drilled into him.
I think we're talking about a subject here that is so far-reaching, and it is so emotional. And when you're dealing with emotions, this is polygraph, because we're dealing in polygraph, you're looking at fear.
Also worthy of note, No one has ever seen the polygraph charts. No one except for George Knapp. So we just have to take his word about all of this, I suppose. But the statement by UFO Jesus that Bob Lazar aced all 4 of his lie detector tests is complete and total horseshit, as we have displayed here tonight.
Fear of getting caught telling a lie because something bad will happen to you if you do.
Well, I am telling the truth. I've tried to prove that. What's going on up there could be the most important event in history. You're talking about contact, physical contact and proof from another system, another planet, another intelligence. That's got to be the biggest event in history, period.
And it's real.
And it's real and it's there.
Oh,
and I had an
yes.
extremely small part in it, but
sounds good.
I'm convinced that what I saw is absolute proof of that. There is no way we could have created those systems. There's no way we could have made the discs, the power supplies, anything to go with them.
So there we have it. Definitive proof that no, Bob Lazar did not ace 4 lie detector tests. Maybe UFO Jesus should fact check things. Maybe he should dig a little deeper before he just repeats talking points from people whose asses he licks. Right? That would be the smart way to go about this. Yes. And Success is sharing this. Thank you very much. Rinsey says, but maybe Bob Lazar had a stomachache the first time. I think this UFO devil is being rather harsh. No harshness intended. Jay Roach, I would be happy to. Please DM me a link on Twitter at Stephen Cambion. Please DM me a link to the video. We will certainly share that. Yes. Well, we have completely and totally picked apart 3, I think, of UFO Jesus's best proofs that Bob Lazar is telling the truth. Yes, but there's more. And let's get to it, friends. So we will once again cite fair use, and we will go back to UFO Jesus, ridiculous video full of fake facts and repeated talking points from people selling alien stories. Yes. Yes, one moment, please. There we are. Okay, so the lie detector claims he said that Bob Lazar aced all 4 lie detector tests. Wrong. Wrong, UFO Jesus, so wrong.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, perhaps the 4 factors I just went over.
Oh no, it is all 4. We've gotten to all 4. We've shown all 4 are pretty shaky. I mean, a few are very shaky. The lie detector claims are complete and total horseshit. What else does he have here to prove Bob Lazar is telling the truth?
Are not enough to persuade you that my client Bob Lazar indeed worked out at the Area 51 complex. That's okay. Luckily for you, I have a trump card up my sleeve that I'm going to throw into the mix, which might be just enough to push you over that edge to accept the reality that my client Bob Lazar worked at S4, a sub-base of Area 51. Back in 1989, Bob Lazar recounted that he witnessed a highly secretive craft known as the Aurora. He successfully drew the back configuration of the craft. He explained that the craft runs on liquid methane. He also conveyed that he once heard the craft and it had a very unusual roar and sounded like the sky was tearing. Years and years later, details of this top secret craft came to light, and Bob Lazar's description accurately detailed the specifications that were revealed about the craft.
Wrong. Wrong. This is fake information as well. Come now, UFO Jesus. Are you this incompetent? Are you this gullible? This is a terrible, again, repeated talking point. The United States government, the Air Force, the Navy, the Army, the Marines, the CIA, the DEA, whoever, the United States government has never admitted that there is in existence a craft called the Aurora that runs on methane or anything else. They have never disclosed that there is a real aircraft named the Aurora that worked or looked as Bob Lazar has described. Show me where the United States government released details of the Aurora craft and how it worked and what it looked like that matched Bob Lazar's description. You can't, because this is a stupid bluff. He mentioned the trump card. I don't know about you, UFO Jesus, but if I wouldn't call a bluff in poker a trump card. This is a bluff. It is stupid talking points that people repeat without evidence or proof. Show us the evidence, show us the proof that the United States government admitted the existence of the Aurora aircraft and how it worked and how it used methane, made the sky tear, whatever. Show us this proof. You don't have it, and neither does anyone else, because the government has never admitted to this aircraft. The Aurora aircraft has long been speculated about or talked about in aviation circles, but there is little to no proof it actually exists.
Make no mistakes about it. There is no way in hell my client could have known those details back in 1989 unless he actually worked out at the Area 51 complex and witnessed this highly secretive craft himself. Now I want to talk about the barrage of harassment and being followed that my client Bob Lazar endured once the security people at S4 began to lose trust in him.
I'm sorry. He will go on to tell stories Bob Lazar told about being persecuted and harassed, but there is no proof, just the words of Bob Lazar. Bob Lazar claimed his car was getting broken into and his house was getting broken into. He never filed any police report. Never. Yes. So UFO Jesus is simply repeating Bob Lazar's stories that have no evidentiary support, no evidence or proof. They're just stories. Repeating them, UFO Jesus, does not make them any more true. Next, I wanted to take a moment to educate UFO Jesus on something very important. You see, when a story begins with a lie, how are we expected to believe anything the person beginning a story with a lie says? Bob Lazar's entire story begins with, I'm an MIT and Caltech educated scientist, but he's not. No one could ever verify that he went to either MIT or Caltech. No one could ever find his master's thesis from either school. And Bob Lazar foolishly claimed that the men in black must have erased his records to discredit him because he was telling people the truth about the aliens at Area 51. Bullshit. Garbage. Bob Lazar's education is completely and totally fake. The entire story starts with a lie, UFO Jesus. So next time you title a video, Bob Lazar is telling the truth about UFOs, maybe you should keep in mind that he begins his entire story with a completely and totally fake, made-up education. And that can be proven, and many have proved it. But for the benefit of UFO Jesus, who apparently doesn't do any actual research or fact-checking, we will educate him. You see, the entire story always starts with MIT-educated government scientist. But he wasn't either an MIT-educated scientist or a government scientist. In fact, he was never a scientist. He was an electronics technician. That's what he was. Somewhere later in UFO Jesus video, he talks about how Bob Lazar's name was in the book at Los Alamos, and that proved that he must have been a scientist there. No, again, you are wrong, because next to Bob Lazar's name in that phone directory were the letters KN, Kirk Meyer. Kirk Meyer did not hire scientists at Los Alamos. They only hired low-level electronics technicians. There is an interview where Bob Lazar is shown a satellite dish at Los Alamos, and he talks about remembering installing that satellite dish. UFO Jesus, Bob Lazar claimed to be a senior staff level physicist at Los Alamos. I will tell you something you should have already known. Senior staff level physicists do not do satellite dish installations. Technicians do. There is ample and supportive evidence from many different sources that Bob Lazar was an electronics technician who worked on alpha monitors, radiation health monitoring equipment. That's what he did at Los Alamos, according to several people, including Eric Davis. Even John Lear has said he worked on radiation health monitoring equipment. Let's cite fair use once again, and we will hear from John Lear about Bob Lazar being an electronics technician working on health monitoring equipment. Bear with me, friends. Here we go. This was the video I mistakenly shared earlier, but we'll get to hear John Lear talk about Bob Lazar being an electronics technician, having a contract to work on alpha monitors.
Will give him any credibility.
What we used to do is we used to drive to Los Alamos from here. It was a 16-hour drive, and Bob had a friend there, and it used to take us like 24 hours to rebuild all these alpha probes. There was like 300 of them. And we'd clean them all up and then rewire them and then put the aluminum tape on them, and then we drive back to Las Vegas. What's an
alpha probe?
They scan for radiation of the people that go in and work in Los Alamos.
Oh.
And Bob had the contract. So we did that about every 6 weeks.
Ever wanted the sensation like you're floating on air? You can.
Sorry, friends. 1 second. Yes, and here's something else I will tell UFO Jesus that he should also know. Senior staff level physicists do not take jobs working on alpha monitors or radiation health monitoring equipment. They have more important things to do. Senior staff level physicists do not work on satellite dishes either. But let's get back to Bob Lazar's education. And we'll also be sharing a viewer here. Jay Roach sent me an excellent video, and it is Bob Lazar in court pleading guilty to being a pimp. Very nice video. Thank you for the share. We will get to that in short order. First, let's share claims about Bob Lazar's education and show that his education was completely and totally fake and made up. This is Stephen Cambion's previous video. Bob Lazar's educational claims destroyed. Here we are. Let's do that once more. There we are, friends. Interesting. Bob Lazar was asked about his professors, and he named a professor at Pierce Junior College. The only education that Bob Lazar ever actually got was Pierce Junior College. And what did he take? An electronics technician class, which would make sense because he was an electronics technician at Los Alamos, not a scientist, certainly not a senior staff level physicist. Yes.
The question I had was, what was the year of your graduation from MIT?
He can't remember the year he graduated.
No, it's a master's degree. What was the year of graduation? Probably 82, because I think I left there.
Went to Los Alamos?
I went to Los Alamos.
Could you reveal some of your professors at MIT and Caltech?
Yeah, if you want.
Yes, I will.
I don't have a list of them here. Dr. Duxler, I think, was one of them, and Hosefield was another.
Hosefield?
Hosefield. Hohsfield or something along those lines.
They remember you?
Oh yeah, Hosefield I know well. Oh sure, I've got people that that I went to school with, and George Knapp has spoken to some of them.
I certainly have trouble with Bob's claimed credentials at schools. He had claimed to have degrees from MIT and Caltech. Now, I've talked to people who saw him at Caltech, but there's no records there. I think it is entirely possible that he would exaggerate his educational background in order to get a great job. He wouldn't be the first person to do that.
Even George Knapp knows he lied.
To lie about his background and education in order to get a good job. And you have to wonder, well, wouldn't the people who hired him know that? And yeah, they would have to. They do a background check. They'd have to know that.
Robert Scott Lazar, supposedly a nuclear physicist with a master's in physics from MIT, a master in electronics from Caltech, who supposedly worked at Area 51 back engineering flying saucers, figured out how they work using element 115. It's a long, detailed story. You can buy the videos someplace else, not from me. I did a lot of checking on Bob. I tried to meet with him twice. I was supposed to on one occasion, and he didn't go along. I checked at MIT. I checked at Caltech. Neither one ever heard of him. Well, but the government wiped his records clean as the response. I talked to the legal counsel at MIT. No way to do that. I talked with the guy who has the degrees, the commencement lists and all that sort of thing. No mention of Lazar. None of the yearbooks show Lazar. You need it for a master's thesis. For a master's degree, you need a thesis. I talked to the guy who holds those. No Lazar item there. He was asked publicly, when did you get your master's from MIT? Well, let me see now. I think it was, probably 1982. I have friends who went to MIT. I was accepted there myself. Go out of high school. And nobody who gets a master's degree in physics from MIT doesn't know what year he got it in. He was asked to name some of his professors. Well, let's see now. He named somebody, somebody, I won't use his name on the air. I checked on him. It was not a common name, fortunately.
Good point, Rich. Yes.
The only trouble is, Bob said he would remember him from Caltech. This individual.
Yes, rest in peace, Mr. Friedman. Great researcher.
Caltech. He only taught at Pierce Junior College. Now, Bob himself had mentioned Pierce to me on the phone. He did go there. Now, that's in Southern California, and he was going there at the same time that he was supposedly attending MIT, 2,500 miles east of there. One heck of a commute. If you can go to MIT, you don't go to Pierce Junior College. But beyond that, I checked with his high school. He finished in the bottom third of his high school class. You can't get into MIT if you're outside. Usually the top 10, 15, 20% of your class. Bottom third, never. His element 115 scheme won't work. Sounds good, science fiction. So, I checked with Los Alamos. He is in the phone book there. Doesn't that prove that he was a scientist working there? No, it certainly doesn't prove he was a scientist. But if you look at the phone book page, up at the very top, it says, this phone book for employees of the Los Alamos National Laboratory, the Department of Energy, Kirk Meyer Corporation, several other companies. Right after Bob's name, and it was only in one phone book issue. They issue them every several months. It says K/M. That's Kirk Meyer, a subcontractor. He worked out at the Maison facility. Don't need a clearance for that. People come in from all over the world, physicists, to do experiments, and he was a technician working out there. And the story goes on beyond that. And I get people telling me, well, I don't see why you don't believe him. He seems so sincere. Sincerity is not a check on truth.
According to Bob Lazar, now this is his claim, he has a master's degree in physics from MIT and also a master's degree in electronics technology from Caltech.
I just want to mention that this is the work of excellent researcher Michael Schratt, who will be on Truthseekers tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to discuss some little-known UFO cases with Stephen Campion. Be sure to tune in tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where Truthseekers' special guest will be this man, researcher Michael Schratt.
He has never produced his original master's degree from either MIT or Caltech. He's never produced it. It's a no-show. There's nothing there. He's never been able to produce the original master's degree. And every effort to locate those degrees has completely failed, including the research by Stanton Friedman. Also, I've got a copy of the MIT yearbook during the early 1980s. Stanton Friedman did a very investigative search of the early 80s yearbooks. There's nothing there. There's no name, there's no picture. He doesn't appear in any of the yearbooks. So that's a red flag that we need to look at. I've got a letter here to John Andrews from Robert Kiesler, dated March 19, 1990, talking about his efforts to find Bob's magnetohydrodynamic master's thesis from MIT. And it says, "Dear Mr. Andrews, I am sorry we are unable to locate a copy of Mr. Robert Scott Lazar's thesis on MHD in our facility." Let's review this. According to Lazar, then, the government not only wiped out his degrees, his both degrees, they wiped out all of the yearbooks. So in essence, they had to crawl up into the dusty ceiling attics of all the graduates from MIT and steal the yearbooks out. And then they also scrubbed his magnetohydrodynamic master's thesis. It's completely gone from every repository. That just doesn't sound logical or reasonable to me, if he's telling the truth.
It was 1990.
Oh, it's Linda Moulton. Howdy doody.
I was working at CNN, and I was a producer, and I got a call in Atlanta at CNN at my office from Bob Lazar. And he said, we're going to be doing something on Memorial Day here. If you can get here, we'd like to have you come and be part of the festivities. And we can talk about, by then it had been very controversial about whether or not Bob Lazar with John Lear, had Bob Lazar been telling the truth about going to Area 51, working for EG&G, all of that. So I went to Las Vegas, met with all of those guys.
Good point.
And was able to spend a lot of time on that Memorial Day weekend. And I believe it was 1990. And here is
Linda Moulton, howdy doody.
the moment of talking with Bob Lazar that is indelible in my mind. He was showing me in his kitchen how he ran this film for the real estate offices that he worked for, filming houses. And he was in the process of demonstrating how he was doing that, just to show me that this is what
Come to the live chat.
He had told me that when Stanton Friedman had questioned him about the fact that he had no degree from MIT. He said, I never, ever said I had a degree from MIT or anything like that. What happened, Linda, is I'm an adopted child. And my parents lived in Florida, and they didn't make much money. And I had gone to school with some buddies. We liked electrical things. We liked engineering. We liked taking cars apart. And some of my buddies got accepted to MIT. He said, I drove up to see them as my friends. And I went to one of their classes for a few days. He would just go and sit. And he said, and I learned some things. I became even more interested in having some kind of a career in which I would be dealing with electronic and engineering things. And he said, that's what I learned at MIT.
Yes, he's on my list.
I never told anybody I had a degree. That's Bob's firsthand version to me.
This is the most bothersome part of the story, and I've talked to Bob many times. I think we're friends. I have offered him the opportunity to tell me, Bob, did you exaggerate about your educational background? Because a lot of people do that. You know that in every walk of life, in every occupation, they would exaggerate something on a resume, and he's always stuck to it. Yes. As for professors, he gave me the name of one at MIT. I checked on that. The professor is not there now. Whether he was there then, when Bob says he went there, MIT will not give me that information. I do have one person who says he went to school with Bob, or at least was aware that Bob
yes,
was
he
going
must
to
have
classes
forgotten
at
that.
Caltech. His name is Jim Tagliani. He was a technician in the stealth fighter program here in Tonopah, Nevada. He worked with Bob in the early 1980s at a place called Fairchild Zincom Systems in Simi Valley. I have some documentation to back that part of it up, and he said he remembers Bob as working a lot of weird shifts to accommodate his classes there. The only record we can have for Bob Lazar ever in college is a single class in electronics at a junior college in California.
Right.
And you don't get hired at Los Alamos with that kind of an educational background.
So I'm afraid that this entire story began with a lie. Solar Warden with a kind and generous $5. Is that $5 Canadian? I believe it is. Thank you for your kindness, your generosity, and your support of Truthseekers. We are a viewer-supported show, friends. If you'd like to support us, there is a money button in the live chat. That is the easiest way to throw a few dollars in our hat and keep us producing high-quality content, bringing people the truth, the second red pill. Yes. Thank you, Solar Warden. I will do so. You are most welcome. Thank you for your kindness, your generosity, and your support. Next, I would like to remind people that you can support us on Patreon or through a PayPal donation, and there are links in the About section. Failing that, the other best way to support our show is to like, comment, subscribe, and share these videos. Share them on your social media. That would help us very much. Please do like, comment, and subscribe, and send some of our video links to your friends. Share our channel link on your social media. And thank you all for helping us to grow. The subscribers are growing every day, and the view counts are jumping up, and there are more and more live attendees in our live chat every week. And we thank you for that. Next, I'd like to remind anyone who is listening in audio podcast land, you're missing half the fun. We do a live chat here, interactive chat. Every live broadcast that we do here on YouTube, just go to YouTube and search the YouTube, hit the YouTube search and put in Truthseekers, one word. Look for the guy with the weird sunglasses. That would be Stephen Cambion, your usual host. I'm guest hosting today. Yes. Next. Yes, so please, if you're in audio podcast, if you're listening in audio podcast land, please come and join our main hub here, our YouTube channel. Also, please be sure to follow Stephen Cambion on Twitter. It's at Stephen Cambion, and you will know when every live show will be. He tries to post them. He's doing a terrible job, but yeah, he attempts to post them before the shows take place. Now I will dedicate, well, I want to make a few last points. Oh, first we're going to share this this other video, yes, of Bob Lazar in court for being a pimp. Bob Lazar was a pimp, a convicted pimp, and by the way, he lied. First, he told George Knapp that he had very little involvement in the whorehouse. He was just helping them with computer systems. Turns out that is completely and totally a lie, because Bob Lazar and his wife were full partners with the madam in a whorehouse. Yes, Bob Lazar and his wife were running a whorehouse. One may wonder how many men's wives would let them run a whorehouse. I don't know. Seems funny. I would also challenge UFO Jesus to find me one other UFO Jesus. Find me any other real scientist who also ran a whorehouse. You can't. Real scientists don't run whorehouses because they worry about their reputations. Fraudsters and fakers might want to run a whorehouse, but not a real scientist. Bob Lazar was never a real scientist. Another great point that I wish to remind everyone, that on a recent interview with Larry King, Bob Lazar claimed that the craft that he worked on, you know, the alien spacecraft, was 52 feet in diameter. But there's a problem with that, because Bob Lazar's own drawings of this supposed alien base where the flying saucers were kept showed hangar bay doors that were 40 foot wide. So I ask you, if Bob Lazar is really telling the truth about working on alien spacecraft, why, oh why, how, oh how, I should say, can a 52-foot diameter spacecraft fit in and out of a 40-foot hangar bay door? These are the little details that liars miss. But don't worry, there are good researchers who catch these little lies. And the little lies add up and add up and add up and add up. How many times will we let Bob Lazar lie to us? Here's another great lie and talking point that Corbell and others and Bob Lazar like to repeat. Oh, Bob Lazar doesn't make any money from this. Yes, he does. He tried to cash in every chance he got. He sold a videotape in the back of Popular Science magazine and other science magazines, excerpts from the government Bible, where he explained exactly how the flying saucers worked. And for just $29.95, you too could learn the truth about those aliens. That was an initial cash in. He and Gene Huff tried to sell a Hollywood screenplay about his experience working on those alien flying saucers. No one took them up on it. Later, Bob Lazar would make as much as $15,000 for a single appearance at the anniversary at some UFO conference of his story. $15,000. He also made a deal with Testers Model Corporation, you know, to sell models of the alien spacecraft that he worked on. And by the way, here's something else I want to educate UFO Jesus on. Boy, UFO Jesus knows very little about this case, and we know very much. We're happy to educate you, UFO Jesus. We are happy to try to educate you. Shortly before Bob Lazar came out with his story, and this has been confirmed by John Lear, Gene Huff, who was his partner selling those videotapes and the story everywhere, and his partner trying to sell a Hollywood screenplay, was Gene Huff. Shortly before Bob Lazar came out with his story, his incredible story about working at Area 51 on alien flying saucers, shortly before that, he met John Lear while Gene Huff was doing a real estate appraisal. Gene Huff was doing that for John Lear as a favor. And what favor would John Lear do in return for Gene Huff? He was giving him copies of all of the Billy Meyer material, videotapes, pictures, books. Yes, shortly before Bob Lazar came out with his story, he and Gene Huff got all the Billy Meyer material, and they went through all the Billy Meyer material, watched all the videos, looked through all the pictures, read the stories of Billy Meyer. So isn't it a coincidence, UFO Jesus, that right after Gene Huff and Bob Lazar got copies of all of that Billy Meyer material, Bob Lazar came out with his story about working on flying saucers. And curiously, the flying saucer he worked on, called the Sport Model, looked almost exact to Billy Meyer's spaceship called the Beam Ship. And we're going to share this. Look at this. Sorry, let's make sure you get a good view of this. Sport Model Beam Ship, a side-by-side comparison diagram. And by the way, this is from the excellent researcher Michael Schratt. Look at this. Right before Bob Lazar comes out with his story, he gets to see all of Billy Meyer's pictures and photos and videos. And gee, his spaceship is almost an exact copy of Billy Meyer's spaceship. Michael Schratt writes, did Bob Lazar copy details from the Billy Meyer beam ship to form the foundation of his Area 51 S4 Sport Model story? Billy Meyer of Switzerland claimed extensive contact with aliens and published many photos purporting to show alien spacecraft. His works were popular in some circles in the 1980s. When Lazar emerged in 1989 with his alien tales, Lazar said the alien scout ship he'd worked on in a secret program was astonishingly similar to what Meyer called the beam ship. Indeed it was. And this is important to note, Billy Meyer was later proven to be a mega hoaxer. So maybe, just maybe, UFO Jesus, Bob Lazar copied this from Billy Meyer, and that spaceship doesn't exist. Billy Meyer's was made from, junk and trash can lids. Come now, UFO Jesus. Let us educate you on the many, many lies of Bob Lazar. I suppose it's important to note that Bob Lazar did indeed run a whorehouse. And I'd like UFO Jesus to tell me how many senior staff level physicists does he know who wake up one day and decide to start running a whorehouse. He's a convicted pimp, Bob Lazar. You can't trust a pimp. I'm sorry, UFO Jesus. You can't trust a pimp to tell you the truth, because he's a pimp. He's a convicted felon, a convicted pimp, not a scientist, UFO Jesus. Lest we forget also that Jeremy Corbell, Bob Lazar, and George Knapp lied about the raid on Bob Lazar's business to sell a film, implying that they must have been looking for that element 115. That was a lie. Stephen Cambion talked to the local sheriff who was in on the raid. The raid had nothing to do with Bob Lazar's fake flying saucer stories. They were there for a murder investigation because Bob Lazar was selling thorium. Or is it thallium? I always get this wrong. Thorium, I believe, which allegedly someone ordered from his company and murdered their wife with. They were there for the sales records and the thorium. The raid had zero to do with element 115. The local sheriff confirmed to Stephen Cambion he was there within earshot of the other agents and everyone else there the entire time. They went there, they searched and got the materials related to the murder that they needed for the investigation to continue and go to court, and they left. They were there for less than an hour. They did not search every inch of Bob Lazar's business, as Jeremy Corbell claimed and George Knapp claimed. We talked to the local sheriff. He denies this, and he denies that the raid had anything to do with Bob Lazar's flying saucer stories, and in fact said, I did not hear anyone mention element 115 or flying saucers. Didn't even know that Bob Lazar had something to do with flying saucers. We were there for a murder investigation. So they lied about that, and Bob Lazar lied, and Corbell lied, and Knapp, well, I'm not sure he lied, but he certainly went along with it. There was a contentious email exchange between George Knapp and Stephen Cambion when Stephen Cambion uncovered the proof and evidence that the Bob Lazar business raid had zero to do with element 115 and flying saucer. So let us share the pimp. Let us share the pimp. The pimp video. Yes, Bob Lazar is a convicted pimp. And we will share this video sent to us by our viewer, J. Roach here. J. Roach's point is that a judge accepted Bob Lazar's fake W-2. And another viewer here, V, correctly points out that they were extremely easy to fake those at that time. And many, many people were faking them, especially when it comes to real estate, because you had to make a certain amount of money in order to get, you know, a mortgage. So people would make up a fake W-2 and lie about their income, etc. Several forensic document examiners, I believe, have looked at Bob Lazar's fake W-2 and declared it fake. The EIN number he uses is wrong. He calls it the Department of Naval Intelligence, which is wrong. Yes, Bob Lazar ran a photo business. He also faked a fake badge, a fake security badge that no one has ever seen before, including real people that worked at Area 51 said that fake badge is fake. It's all wrong. It has nothing to do with the real badge you get when you actually work at Area 51. How many times, UFO Jesus, will we allow Bob Lazar to lie to us? How many times will we catch him lying to us? Yet you, UFO Jesus, title a video, Bob Lazar is telling the truth. Sure he is. He's lying about all of these things we've shown and proven that he's lied about tonight, but he's telling the truth about those aliens. UFO Jesus, do you so desperately wish to believe this fake story that you will throw out all critical thinking, all discernment, and just believe him because you want to? In your life, UFO Jesus, how many friends of yours will you let lie to you 10 or 20 times, yet still believe a fantastic story they tell you? Your logic makes no sense. You have no logic. Your discernment is gone. You've lost your objectivity. You so desperately want to believe this story that you will make excuses for all of Bob Lazar's lies, for all of Jeremy Corbell's lies and George Knapp's lies. I will pray for you, UFO Jesus. Now, let's see this video about Bob Lazar pleading guilty to being a pimp. Yeah. Oh, let's try once more. And I will put up my fair use banner as well. One moment, friends. I need to put up the banner. This is fair use. Well, I think this is, yes, this is fair use. We will be discussing and critiquing the video. We are using it to educate the public about Bob Lazar, the pimp. Yes. In case you didn't know, UFO Jesus, Bob Lazar is a convicted pimp.
Seems to me that Mr. Lazar's problem is of an emotional disturbance nature, really much more than the criminal nature. I am reading everything here, and if I agree with, in spite of what you say, Mr. Lukens, I think that that it is a substantial penalty that he has, in fact, been convicted of felony. I have letters from Kenneth Stegman, who was surveillance manager at the Sahara and Hacienda Resorts. I have statements from George Knapp. I have reviewed the material from Mark Pierre.
By the way, it was George Knapp who ratted on Bob Lazar for being a pimp. He called the police and let them know that Bob Lazar was running a whorehouse. Great friend, George Knapp. Thank you, George Knapp, for ratting me out. Well, why would you rat out your friend Bob Lazar for running a whorehouse? But he did, convincing Bob Lazar that he better turn himself in.
From Mr. Bilberry's office. I'm impressed with all of that. I note that although it doesn't show a lot of income, we do have a W-2 form of record that shows that he worked for the United States Department of Naval Intelligence. Evidently, based on what you say, that affirms.
I just want to mention, just because a judge looks at a W-2 and doesn't check any of the information, doesn't mean it's a real W-2. Obviously, the judge never checked, or he would have found that the EIN number was incorrect, and there is or was no Department of Naval Intelligence at the time that this court trial took place. Bob Lazar got it wrong. It is not the Department of Naval Intelligence. That was ended after World War II, and a new naval intelligence organization took place. Amateur mistake he made while faking a W-2.
That the detective Joe Young, who investigated this, does not have any objection to probation. I was impressed with the letter from the defendant, in which he acknowledges that his actions were irresponsible and they caused great embarrassment and pain to me and my loved ones. I think that all of that is appropriate to put on the record. I have a letter from Don Williams, a friend of his who is a businessman in the community. I was impressed with the fact that
good point, everyone.
no police investigation was involved in this case, I guess, until he confessed on television. And I also note that he is in fact listed in the Los Alamos National Laboratory Telephone Directory. It's obvious it's very difficult to get information on Mr. Lazar from government sources, enormously difficult. With all of that in mind, it seems to me here's what's appropriate under the circumstances. In addition to the $20 administrative assessment, this court does not sentence you, Robert Lazar, confined to prisons for a period of 3 years.
Yes.
I'll that sentence and place you on an indeterminate period of probation not to exceed 3 years, subject to the following terms and conditions. Number one, I think you can do some useful community service, and I will order that you do 150 hours of community service.
Good point.
Period of probation. Number two, you have no contact with prostitutes or brothels, be they legal or illegal during your term of probation. Number three, I'm going to order that you have psychotherapy once a week with a qualified psychiatrist, psychologist, or American family counselor for a period of 1 year. And thereafter, if the professional does not feel you're ready to be released. And it is my understanding that you are willing to give up your passport. It seems to me that's probably appropriate. Should you have a business need to travel, I would imagine that that should be worked out with your probation officer. And that will be the sentence. Thank you.
Pretty harsh for trumped up charges.
Poor Bob Lazar. He wasn't allowed to have any contact with prostitutes for 3 years. I wonder how he survived. Apparently, George Knapp has said that Bob Lazar was very fond of prostitutes. Maybe that's why he started a whorehouse. So, UFO Jesus, I have done my best to educate you on the liar, pimp, and convicted felon, Bob Lazar, and why no one should trust his fake stories about working on alien spacecraft. Let's not forget of the recent flyovers of S4 where he said it was. Guess what's there? UFO Jesus, nothing. Nothing is there. Also, the area is so irradiated, no one could spend a significant amount of time there without suffering from radiation poisoning. Another proof that Bob Lazar's claims of an alien spacecraft base being where he said it was is fake. Yes, no contact with prostitutes for 3 years. I bet you that was the hardest part of his probation. Yes. Yes, and Success is sharing that. Oh, and I missed. I apologize here. Wait, let me see if I can find it. I missed 2 of them. Geez, I am so sorry. It's very hard to see. Brock Landers with a kind and generous donation of $4.99 in a super chat. Thank you, Mr. Landers, for your continued support and generosity towards our show. We are a viewer-supported show. There is a $sign down there in the live chat. If you wish to support our show and see more content like this, dispelling fake, false UFO narratives and such, please do support us by sending a super chat donation or purchasing a super sticker. You can also support us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Everything you see here was taken from Patreon funds and super chat donations. The set, the lighting, the microphone, the computer, our character creation, supplies, the headphones, everything. This is a viewer-supported show, and every dollar goes back into making the show better and more professional. Yes. How professional is it that a man named UFO Lucifer is up here telling you our show is getting more professional? Yeah, it is, slowly. And William Pixley with a kind and generous $5 super chat donation who says, keep rocking it. Yes, I shall. Thank you for your generosity, your support, and your long-time participation. William Pixley has been here for quite some time, taking part in our live chat discussions and contributing his thoughts and opinions. We may not always agree, but I certainly enjoy your presence here. Mr. William Pixley, thank you for your kindness and your generosity. Very generous of you. Now I will devote my full attention to the live chat. Any questions or comments for me? Jill D says, poor Lazar, UFO prostitutes only. Yes, the judge didn't say that he couldn't hang out with alien prostitutes. Maybe that's what he did. Yes, Charles Unleash asks, didn't UFO Jesus delete his Disclosure is Here video when TTSA folded? Yes, I believe he did. He has either changed or deleted several videos, each time when he looks stupid. UFO Jesus, will you delete your Bob Lazar is telling the truth video now that we have shown you to be a fool repeating talking points from people selling alien stories? I feel very bad for Mr. UFO Jesus. He's lying through his Jesus teeth, okay? Or maybe he's not so guilty of lying because these are not his lies after all. He's just repeating lies that he gets from people he wants to believe in. And don't we all want to believe in something, right? Tell Campion I think Ledger may have got his Joker character from him. Perhaps. It's good. Yes. Jay Roach, V talking to Jay Roach, says, the judge began by calling Bob Lazar emotionally disturbed. Even today's judges accept documents all the time without verifying. Yes, because they assume that you would not give a judge in your criminal case a fake document. Bad assumption when it comes to one Bob Lazar, who is a proven liar, lied about his education, lied about many, many things. And maybe, UFO Jesus, just maybe, he lied about his work on the alien spacecraft you so desperately need to believe in. Well, friends, I am beginning to melt. UFO Lucifer's time here is coming to an end. I wish to thank UFO Jesus for giving us a very nice topic to discuss tonight. And I wish to thank him for his lively copping out and making excuses for titling a video, Bob Lazar is telling the truth. Good luck weaseling out of that. Yes. Now people may be a bit more informed about Bob Lazar, convicted pimp and liar. Charles Unleash says Stephen is turning into a little pink puddle. That is a fairly accurate statement. The air conditioner has been off here for some 1 hour and 32 minutes, and we are in the middle of a heat wave here where Stephen Campion lives. Chris Johansson with an excellent point. I don't think UFO Jesus is so much deliberately deceptive as he is delusional and gullible. Yes, he just simply wants to believe this story so much that he discounts all of the proof that many of these things are lies, and he plays up the things which may be true, but there's still no proof or evidence. And by the way, UFO Jesus, one more piece of proof that this story is all fake. George Knapp famously said that he knows a place where Bob Lazar buried some of that element 115, and maybe, just maybe, he'll go dig it up someday. Sure. So George Knapp who's been selling this story for 35 years, knows exactly where the proof of alien visitation, proof of intelligent life on other planets visiting us is for 35 years. And he's never dug it up and showed it to anyone. Sure, UFO Jesus, sure he knows where that alien spacecraft special element is. Sure he does. Wouldn't you be comfy, you know, in the warmth? Yes, I should be, but it is worse than hell hot in here right now. Yes. Jay Roach reminding everyone, yes, please do smash that like button, folks. Another great stream can be, and catch us on the next one. Yes, I will have to bow out of here soon. I have souls to reap. Yes. Easy to find where he buried it. The rocks are floating. Yes. He said that. George Knapp says he knows exactly where the proof of this whole story is. Why won't he give it to us? Why wouldn't George Knapp dig it up, throw it down on a table, call CNN and hold a press conference and say, there's the proof of Bob Lazar's story, bitches? Because it's not real. Element 115 does not exist, at least not in a stable form as Bob Lazar described. More proof Bob Lazar is lying. He claims that they did all tests imaginable to this element 115. If that were the case, he would know the isotopic ratios and be able to recreate it. After all, Bob Lazar once claimed he had a particle accelerator in his bedroom, and so did George Knapp. Go ask a real physicist. It is impossible to have a particle accelerator in your bedroom. That's a lie. More lies. And the lies keep coming, UFO Lucifer. So sorry you so want to believe. William Pixley saying, shout out to Captain Austin Zitz. He was a good soul. Yes, William Pixley, he was. May he rest in peace and find all of the answers that he was seeking in life. May he be reunited with his ancestors and be in heaven. And we here will certainly miss him in this realm. Rest in peace, Captain Austin Zitz. If he was a pimp, it matters what kind of pimp, too. He might have bodies somewhere if he was violent, dead, trafficking kind. Very good point, Aaron. You can't trust a pimp. Sorry, UFO Jesus. You cannot trust a pimp. I don't know how many pimps UFO Jesus knows, UFO Lucifer. I know a lot of pimps. You can't trust any pimp. You don't trust a pimp to tell you the truth, okay? All they care about is money and their bitches, okay? They care about their bitches and money. That's it. They don't care about the truth. Chris Johansson says, I think Bob fooled George about the 115. I think Knapp believes Bob's bullshit on that. Yes, George Knapp seems to be a true believer. Aaron says, not all pimps are the funny, stylish, finesse kind. Yes. He wasn't technically a pimp, bro. He ran a whorehouse, William Pixley. That's a pimp. You know who else runs a whorehouses? Pimps. Pimps run whorehouses, and madams run whorehouses. Bob Lazar ran a whorehouse. It's not a stretch to say he was a pimp, and he was a convicted pimp. He got convicted. He pled guilty to running a whorehouse. Bob had a bottom bitch from Mars. Oh, no. UFO Jesus kept referring to him as a client. What's that, a mouthpiece for him, PR? No, UFO Jesus claimed that his video was a thought exercise of him being a lawyer and defending Bob Lazar's case about telling the truth about those aliens, and he did a terrible job. Earlier on Twitter, UFO Jesus said, I never said I believed Bob Lazar, yet he titled his video, Bob Lazar is telling the truth about UFOs. Then on Twitter, he tries to squirm out of it, claiming, oh no, I was acting as his lawyer in those videos. I never said that I believed Bob Lazar. Well, tonight I acted as the prosecutor, I suppose, which would be acceptable. If UFO Jesus was in a court telling fake facts to people, the prosecutor would be allowed to stand up and tell the jury everything that this so-called lawyer just said was completely and totally factually inaccurate, and here's why. And we got to do that tonight. And I would be happy to have UFO Jesus here on our show. We would be respectful and polite, but certainly have a lively discussion, I'm sure, both about Bob Lazar and about many, many things that UFO Jesus talks about. You know, nothing against him, but I don't like the fact that he just repeats talking points from people selling alien stories. He is a true believer. Black Magic says, hey, Satan, my mom wants to know about the child support. I don't recall her selling her soul to me, so I don't care, Pragmagic. Yes, and we've answered that one. Especially not back then. An illegal pimp back in the day was likely to be exploitive. Yes, of course. And shows how smart Mr. Scientist Bob Lazar is, because he could have opened a legal brothel, but he chose to open an illegal brothel in a state where whorehouses can be legal if you do the right thing, get the right licenses, etc. He didn't do that. He ran an illegal whorehouse. And certainly one could imagine that a man willing to exploit women and make them sell their bodies for money and take a cut of the money is not a trustworthy man. Just my opinion. Victorious Eagle Warfare says Corbell is even worse for pushing this stuff. Yes, he really just likes to make money. He does not care. The man who says weaponize your curiosity has to block everyone on social media who shows him why Bob Lazar is lying. It's like he's sitting there with blinders on. Remember when you were a child and people were telling you things you didn't want to hear, and you go, I don't want to hear. That's Jeremy Corbell in a nutshell. Yes, I agree with you. Oh, Lord, you know the end is near when Jesus starts lying. Well, again, in fairness to UFO Jesus, I'm not sure he's lying. He's just repeating lies without checking if they're lies or not. But the fact remains that he's repeating lies. Victorious Eagle Warfare. It creeps me out the way people worship Corbell and are afraid to challenge him. We are not afraid, V. We are not afraid. Yes. All right. So it is getting very, very hot in here. It's literally hotter than hell. Okay. So, yes, I will remember. I'm not sure my wife would appreciate me coming to bed like this. Well, maybe she will. She's kind of strange, you know. She's a little kinky. Yeah. But we love her that way. Yes. All right. Enough about my Stephen Cavian's wife. Rogue Status. I don't agree. These women were going to sell themselves anyway. He gave them a safe place to do it for a price. Perhaps. Yes, in fairness, Rogue Status may be indeed right. So, friends, like Stephen Campion, I am always, always happy when there is an audience. Yes. What more could you ask for? Nothing worse than working very hard on doing a show and showing up to the show and no one is there to see it, experience it, or participate with it, as we do here. I have always been very blessed. Every time I come here, there is a fantastic audience. Tonight we did indeed have a fantastic audience. I want to thank each and every one of you for participating in the live chat. And once again, remind you, if you are listening in audio podcast land, please go to the YouTube. Yes, and hit this, put Truthseekers in the search bar. You will see a strange man with sunglasses. That would be Stephen Campion. Click on that and subscribe. Hit the notification bell, and you will know about our live broadcasts and can come here and participate in our live chat. You would be most welcome here. You are most welcome here. I understand some people are at work and they can only listen, but if you would like to, usually our showtime is 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, something like Sunday through Thursday. I don't know. Tomorrow night, we will have a very special guest on Truthseekers in the form of excellent researcher and illustrator and UFO historian Michael Schratt. Please do not forget to join us tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with our very special guest, Michael Schratt. I hear Stephen Campion is very excited and has an incredible list of questions for Mr. Schratt. It will be a fantastic evening. If you like UFOs and UFO history, you will have a good time. Please join us in the live chat. As I said, always happy, friends, when there is an audience. And tonight we had a great one. Thank you for being a part of this audience. Well, until next time, friends, I am UFO Lucifer, reminding you that sometimes, yes, sometimes the truth can be ugly, but it is still worth having. Good night.